Today I'm responding to a YouTube comment where a woman confronted me about needing to get off her land
Get off my property!
and was pretty aggressive, pointing out that if I was under 20% indigenous ancestry, that I need to be deported. So we're going to talk about this today. Thank you so much for being with me here. I'm Danielle Romero, and on my channel we talk about American identity and family stories. So I want to read part of this woman's comment, and I'm going to put them up on the screen. I have them on my computer. I'll put them on the screen. I'm going to blur her username for a plethora of reasons. One is that she is a self-proclaimed Latin adult film star and also a web developer. So when I saw her initial picture, I was taken aback. So I just want to read a few things that she said and get into the discussion that I've seen a lot on the internet of the land back movement and what that means in the context that this woman is talking. So she said, part of it, she said, "We demand everyone roaming our lands place their arms on the table and draw blood for DNA identification for IDs. Since DNA is factual evidence and destroys all lies, whomever is not American by blood should immediately be deported to their nearest countries." I'm going to just jump down. Furthermore, since blacks have been parroting white supremacist lying rhetoric of their white slave masters by labeling us as immigrants, they should leave on the Mayflower with their slave master. And she said to me that I had no indigenous American ancestry. And she said, "Now get off our lands. Never understood why black and white people call Latinos immigrants, but get off our lands." She said for me to take a DNA test, create a YouTube video. Let's check the percentage. It better not be 10 or 20%. And I just asked if she invented that herself. So let's have a discussion about this. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has come across this kind of conversation. Maybe it was directed at you. Maybe you've just kind of seen it around. First off, I think we need to clear something up because DNA doesn't work the way that I used to think it worked. And I think a lot of people are still confused about it. And the estimates change as the databases change with them. So you could be 10% of something one day. You could be 20% on another test. Like this has happened to me. Are you suddenly less connected? Did your rights shrink with the update? The whole idea of percentages being proof of identity falls apart like the second you actually think about this. When I try to explain DNA inheritance to my kids, I say, imagine you get 50 marbles from each parent, but each parent has 100 marbles of their own that are a mixture from their parents and then their grandparents. And so you're just getting a random scoop of 50 from each parent, and one child may get a lot more of one thing than another, and that's definitely reflected in DNA tests. And you can see that even in the way children look in the same family, that, sometimes one child favors one side of the family more. Well, this is why. Here's where it gets darker, because the comment, like, it better not be 10 or 20%, that's to say, like, if it's under 20%, you're not indigenous enough to stay in America. It echoes something called blood quantum. And blood quantum laws were created by colonial governments to decide who is native enough to have access to the land, to rights, to resources. Spoiler alert, these were not created to protect indigenous culture. It was designed to slowly erase indigenous identity over a few generations. If you think about it, it doesn't take long for that to happen. The fewer the people who can meet the threshold, the easier it is to take that land, take the resources. And so now we're seeing the same harmful mindset pop up in comments like this, using DNA percentages as weapons to police identity and to exclude people. It's not protecting culture. It's literally you're perpetuating the very systems that erase the culture in the first place. I'm not against cultures wanting to protect and preserve. Obviously, I have a YouTube channel all about that. This woman, she didn't say she was a part of any tribe. But here's the other thing. You can't unring the bell of history. For thousands of years, people have been moving, mixing, building cultures together, going to war. Indigenous nations, European settlers, the African diaspora, all the histories are deeply intertwined at this point. The land and identity are not pure anymore. They may never have been in the way that people like this are talking about it, but trying to separate them now with these arbitrary DNA thresholds is not only impossible, it's missing the point entirely. And then there's this other part of the comment, and excuse me, I had to go get a tea at Starbucks because I was losing my voice from recording today. But she said, whomever is not American by blood should be immediately deported to their nearest countries. Okay, let's take a moment to unpack this one because I think this one is a lot of fun. So first of all, what does that actually mean?
Out of here, mister!
Someone like me and like her, I know this because she's identifying as Latin, which is telling me she's at least Spanish and indigenous. Where do we get deported to? Do I need multiple tickets? Do I have a rotating schedule? How exactly do we define American by blood? And here's the thought. If someone is 20% native, that means one of my grandparents could be 60% native. So are we being sent to separate countries at this point? Are we splitting up the family now? Based on blood purity laws? Like literally, I just did a video about this, about the Anglo-Saxon Club of America, about Virginia's racial purity laws of 1924. We can all agree that those are wrong. So what's the difference here? The logic here is so flawed. It is almost funny. And again, I'm not saying that culture shouldn't preserve themselves, but the idea that you can, especially at this point in 2025, enforce blood purity laws is frightening, to be honest. And this logic doesn't hold up under the slightest scrutiny. I get it though. Identity is emotional. Like, trust me, I get that. I have been as transparent as possible on this channel, doing this with you, taking tests, doing videos when I take them, when they change, sharing census records, sharing what my family has heard or how they feel. And I know that for indigenous communities, you know, the pain of colonization, the land, the cultural erasure, all of that's real. I'm not saying that that's not real, but reducing identity to a percentage on a screen doesn't help. It hurts. And the truth is, America has always been shaped by the mixing of land, people, and histories, even when it was all indigenous people here. You know, the people who were here were not a monolithic group. They didn't all speak the same language. They didn't even all get along, you know? I think that's part of the history that gets conveniently left out in these conversations. And we can't undo that. We don't need to undo that. But we can't distill it either into these neat little categories. I think we should leave the DNA policing and the percentage gatekeeping in the past, where it belongs. But I do feel bad for anyone who spends this much energy trying to gatekeep some identity with percentages. It's exhausting. Imagine all the good that we could accomplish if we would redirect all of that energy toward actually supporting indigenous communities, preserving cultures, protecting stories, like all of those things. Let's do those things. The beauty of our ancestry, whoever you are, is in its complexity. Your story is a story that's too big for numbers to capture alone. So maybe instead of playing DNA police, which all throughout history that's been tried and found wanting, we can focus on building connections with each other and working towards something meaningful. Just a thought. So let me know what you think, and if you'd love to connect with me off of YouTube, I'd love to see you over at patreon.com/NYTN. Otherwise, we'll talk soon. Over the last 2 years, I've been telling the stories that often get ignored. But lately, I've been facing an uphill battle behind the scenes of each video. My videos are getting flagged by YouTube when all I'm doing is sharing real history. If these stories have ever resonated with you or given you a new perspective, grab some Be a Good Ancestor merch and help me keep this channel going. Check out nytonashville.com.